What's up guys, Donovan Wagner here. Welcome back to the channel. If you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below because we are bringing you guys all sorts of tutorials, gear reviews, behind the scenes of my photo shoots and video shoots, so you're not going to want to miss this stuff guys. Now today we are talking about the all-new Feiyutech AK4500 Gimbal, so let's get into it. Alright guys, so you're probably in the market for a new gimbal, and with all the options on the market right now between Zhiyun, DJI, Feiyutech, Moza, there's so many possibilities out there for this style of gimbal. Now Feiyutech released the AK4500 just earlier this year. In fact, in April 2019 I think is when it hit the market, and I was super excited because I already had the AK2000. And that thing is a workhorse. I mean, I put my A7R III on there, my A6300 with several different kinds of lenses, and it handles it perfectly fine. There are a few shortcomings of that gimbal, but for the price you pay, that thing will never let you down. So the AK4500 came out, it has a higher payload, it has better motors, it has all these different features, and actually a second handle, which I'm excited to share with you guys. So there's lots of features that are really exciting about this gimbal, and I personally think that are leaps and bounds ahead of the competitors. So I'm going to break this review down into 4 sections. Number 1, what's in the box? So what can you expect when you first get this to your door and you open it up? Number 2, the build quality of the gimbal itself. So I'm going to go over, the feel of it, the grip, the buttons, everything like that, the physical feel and quality of the gimbal. Number 3, some of the top features that I really enjoy using on this gimbal. So its main its main selling points and things that I really enjoy about this gimbal. And the 4th point is basically its performance. So at the end of the day, you buy a gimbal to stabilize your footage. So how well does it do that? And are there any kind of flaws in this gimbal at all? So we'll go over that in section 4. Now, I've been using gimbals for the last year approximately with my video work, and it is just such a nice tool to have in my bag. For automotive stuff, for model stuff, just kind of whatever I need that buttery smooth footage. These gimbals have really advanced, and you're no longer carrying around the big Ronins and the big, two-handed grips. Yes, you can buy those accessories and they're nice to have from time to time, but for the average run and gun or wedding videographer that just likes to keep things light, these are such an amazing tool. So first things first, let's get into section 1, and that is what's in the box. So when you first open the box of the AK4500, you will be greeted with this styrofoam case. Now the AK2000 had a very similar case. This is just a bit bulkier, beefier. In fact, it just feels nice. So it's not cheap foam, it has a nice feel to it. Now once you open that case up, of course you'll be greeted with your gimbal, your tripod legs, your charger, the batteries, all the cables, the handle extension. Pretty much everything you need to operate this gimbal is in the main case. Now with the AK4500, there's also a second box that will be in there, and that is your accessory box. And now that is the exciting little candy store, because that's where you have your focus pulling wheel, you have your second handle, which I'll get into shortly because that thing's a beauty. And you'll also have your charging cables for that handle and just miscellaneous accessories. So that's kind of what you can expect when you open the box, when you get this to your door. Everything is laid out perfectly. There's instruction manuals, you have your warranty cards, everything you would expect from a brand new product. Also a side note about these styrofoam cases, when I first got the gimbal, I just thought I had to bring that case with me everywhere. And so I'd get in these scenarios where I would have the gimbal and I'd be shooting with it, and my poor wife, who was pregnant at the time, would have to carry around that styrofoam case because I had my backpack and my camera on the gimbal, and I didn't want to put down the case and leave it behind, obviously. So my wife would end up having to carry it for probably a couple hours while we were hiking. So that just goes to show that these cases are nice and lightweight, although I have changed my methods since then. Now getting into section 2, the build quality of the AK4500. Now, I only have the AK2000 to really compare it against, and the AK4500 is just amazing. So they've really listened to their audience basically and put in some nice features such as little locking mechanisms so that you can actually lock your motor axes so that when you have it in your backpack or wherever in transport, it's not swinging all over the place. So for example, the AK2000, this is it turned off, you know, it's in your backpack, it's swinging all over the place. I actually had an incident in Toronto where this thing was strapped to my backpack, and I was walking through a restaurant and I hit this poor woman in the face. And I'll never forget that, and this completely solves that issue. So, I mean, I could have strapped it in probably a little bit better, but don't have to worry about that as much with this one. Another big improvement I found is just the quick release plates that they use on here now. So with the new quick release plates, you have your basic Manfrotto plate here, but then you also have this other quick release plate on top, so that when your camera's balanced, you can actually take it off the gimbal to, let's say, take some photos or something like that, and then you go to put it back on your gimbal. There's no rebalancing it. It's already set up, ready to go, just with the click of a button. That right there is a handy feature. I do love that. As with the other Feiyutech gimbals, you have the touch screen on the front here to go through your modes. It's super intuitive, it's super easy, it feels great. All the buttons have a nice feel to them. They don't feel cheap. It feels like a really good product when you're holding it and using it. Now, as well, another improvement they've made with this gimbal is the tripod legs on the bottom. They just feel a lot better, and when they're folded up in your hand, it does feel like more usable handle space. Whereas I found on the AK2000, the handles just felt like they were kind of a pinch point, like you were going to get your fingers caught in there if you held on down there. So this folds up into a nice shape, and it basically just continues on with the handle. So I have no problem holding onto the gimbal right down here now. So that again is another improvement they've made to the build quality of the gimbal itself. So overall, I have nothing but good things to say about the build quality. The only thing I'm concerned about is the grip. Feels very similar to the AK2000, and what I noticed on that is that over time, shooting in high temperatures, hot summer day, it's like the glue almost let go and this grip would slide up a little bit. So we'll see if that happens again on this one, or if they've actually managed to fix that. Okay, now getting into section 3, some of the top features I found with the AK4500. Now, there are several unique features this camera has, including inception mode, which basically will spin once to the left, once to the right, or continuously in either direction, whatever you tell it to do. I don't think I will use this feature very often, as it kind of makes me feel nauseous when I'm looking at the footage, but for creative taste, you know, it's another option you have. The big feature that I love on this gimbal is the second joystick here. So this goes on the accessory bracket here to allow you to have two hands on the gimbal when you're using it, but also, let's say you don't have any friends, but you need to film something on your own. Well, that's where this joystick comes in handy. So it's Bluetooth activated. You have your joystick here, which you can tell it to go up, down, side to side, all that fun stuff. But another thing you can actually do is follow yourself. So if you hold your finger on the back here and you turn your body around this way or this way, it's kind of like a Wii remote, and it'll follow your movements whichever way you move or tell it to move. So I think that is a super cool feature. I'm not sure if any other gimbals really have that right now, but that alone is such a cool thing. As well with this, you have an extra spinny wheel here, so you have more control. You can tell it what to do if you want it to tilt or pan. The joystick, you can hit record if you have your camera set up via Wi-Fi. So there's all sorts of cool things built into this little joystick alone that brings to the table so many cool features. Now, I know I mentioned it already in section 2, but the quick release plate system that they've put on this camera is, again, one of the favorite features I have with the AK4500. Because once you have that camera balanced on your gimbal, it's just a matter of clicking off with a button, putting it back on, it'll snap back into place. Everything's the way you left it. It's super convenient. And also now with the ability to slide your bracket side to side, you can actually get your camera body just perfectly nice up against this arm here, and it just helps balancing overall and allowing you to use different cameras, because I know previously if you had a 1DX or something like that, it was a little bit wide for these kind of gimbals, whereas now it opens up doors to whole different options. You can put Blackmagics on here, you can put Red Ravens, like the lighter cameras on here, and with a payload of over 10 pounds, I mean, that's just endless possibilities. So wrapping up section 3, this thing has a ton of features that I'm really excited about and I'm going to continue using for a long time. All right, guys, getting into the fourth and final section of this review, which is arguably the most important, and that is how well does this gimbal stabilize your footage? Because obviously that's what you're buying a gimbal to do. So what I've found already using this gimbal compared to the AK2000 is because I'm using a Sony a6300, there's no in-body stabilization. My Sigma 16mm does not have stabilization either. So there was still times where I would have to use warp stabilizer in Premiere Pro, which is ultimately like a last resort thing for me because it distorts your footage, it just looks wonky. So what I've found so far with the AK4500 is it eliminates a lot of the side-to-side swaying that I don't want when I'm walking. And also having that second handle to hold on to, because the more contact points with your body, the more stable your footage. I found that to be such a perk to this gimbal. The second handle, getting those low shots of feet or the trail or the river, whatever I'm shooting nice and low, it just adds that much more ergonomics to it, and it makes it so much easier to use. And ultimately, so it stabilizes your footage, it's easy to use. So I don't really know what more you could want from a gimbal. I mean, it's doing everything that I would want it to do and more. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this my stamp of approval that this gimbal is quite a machine, and I highly recommend for anybody in the market, do your research. There's a lot out there at the moment, but I have nothing but good things to say about the Feiyutech. It's got amazing battery life. I've tested that. Mine actually made it over the 12 hours. I think it made it 12 and a half, 13 hours, which is insane. And sometimes it can actually be a bad thing because I take it for granted. I'll forget to charge it the night before and head out for several shoots. And then of course it's gonna die at some point in time, but having that long battery life is just amazing. Wrapping up this review, guys, it is an amazing tool at a really good cost. So let me know in the comments below if you guys have had a good or bad experience with Feiyutech line of gimbals, or what your favorite gimbal is, whether it's Moza or Zhiyun or Ronin's. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.